All right, we're going to try this again. It still looks like I'm dropping frames, which is very annoying. Okay, can you guys hear me? See me? Let me know in the chat if you're still with me. Yay! Penny's still here. Woo! Yeah, it looks like I'm getting fewer dropped frames, so hopefully this will be better. I don't know if it will be or not. Fingers crossed, right? So, all right. Penny, are you familiar with Scrivener? Do you know what it is? And who is Morgos? Are you actually out there? I can see you in the chat, like listed in the chat, but I don't know if you're actually there. So. Ah, Jen! Yay! Yay! Awesome. I just got a notification of a dropped frame, but it wasn't as bad as before. Am I herky-jerky to you guys, or are you guys seeing and hearing me? Okay, you've downloaded the free trial, but you're a newbie to the program. Cool, awesome. So it's the cool thing about the trial is that it's 30 days of use, not 30 consecutive days. So make sure you close it by the end of the day, especially if you're not going to be working like the next day or whatever, because then that way you keep your trial days. All right, good. Jen can see and hear fine. Excellent. All right. I need to see if I need to reset up my browser extension thing. No, I think it's good. All right. Okay. So I'm just going to, here's what I'm going to do. Here's how this is going to go. I'm going to start from the beginning, from when you open the file. Mine will look a little different than yours because I have some templates and you won't have all the templates I have, but you should have the ones I do. If you want, you're welcome to open your own copy of Scrivener and follow along. Otherwise it'll be on your screen. So I'm going to go ahead. So when you first open Scrivener, you get this, right? So it's your project templates. And if you're writing fiction, you're going to go to fiction. If not, you're going to go to nonfiction. So this is the nonfiction. And you can choose from different things. If you're writing a book, you're probably going to do general nonfiction. You know, you can also find different templates on the internet for stuff. So don't worry about that. Okay, but we're going to go with fiction. Now, you're not going to have all these because I've got a whole bunch of different templates in here. But you most likely start with novel with parts, and short story. So we're going to go ahead and open it with the novel. So we're going to create. You hit the whichever template you want. You hit create. You can't see this part, I don't think. Can you see this part? No, you can't. So it basically just opens a window just like it always does when you create something. So I'm going to put tutorial. And then it dumps you into your Scrivener window, which I am going to resize a little bit so that you can see it. And move it around on the screen a little bit. Oh, that's a little too big, isn't it? Make it a little wider. See, the problem is when the window goes to two different sizes, you can't center them both. All right, let me close it. There we go. All right. Everybody see it? You like the little cat sleeping right there? It's so cute. All right. So this is where you're going to go. This should look familiar to anybody who's looked at Scrivener. So I'm going to kind of just go through each of the sections. And what this whole tutorial is designed to do is to just get you started with writing. So I'm going to talk for a second about how Scrivener actually works. So Scrivener's basically your whole project in this place. And one of the things that makes it very confusing for people who are new to Scrivener is the fact that what it looks like on the screen when you write it is not necessarily how it looks when you print it out. Hey Rosie, welcome, welcome. Glad to see you here. So the way Scrivener works is what you see on the screen isn't necessarily how it comes out when you go to print it, when you go to move it into a Word document or an ebook file or a PDF or whatever you're going to be putting it into, which makes it very flexible, and it makes it very, very powerful, because what it means is you can set up settings to compile. That's the word they use compile your project to whatever format you're going to be exporting to. So it means that you can basically write in whatever font you want, whatever size you want. You can have it single spaced, you can have it quadruple spaced, it doesn't matter, because that's not what it's going to look like when it comes out, because when it comes out, it's going to look like what you want it to look like for whatever it is you have planned for it. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, feel free to ask any questions in the chat. And honestly, if any questions come up in the chat, absolutely, if any questions come up during the stream for you, absolutely put them in the chat, because I'll be monitoring that too. All right, so we're going to go through, we're going to start at the beginning. So here at the top, you have all, the thing like the menu like you're used to in every other Word program you've ever used. So you've got File, Edit, Insert, View, Navigate, Project, Documents, Format, and Window. So, on File, you're going to find lots of things: Open, Project, Close Projects, Import, Export, Page Setup, Print Setup, Compile. This is what I was just talking about when you set it up to be either printed or to be, put into an creating an ebook or whatever. We're not going to go over Compile in this video because it's changed dramatically since the old version, and I am not as yet comfortable enough explaining it to other people. I don't have a good enough grip on it. And then you've got your options. I'm not going to go through all this because you don't need any of this to actually start writing. What I do want to do is introduce you to the editor. First the binder, which is here on the left, and then the editor. So why is that all the way on the edge? All right, let me widen the window just a little. Nope, that's not changing it. That's so weird. All right. We will be popping up here. I will also be showing you, there are multiple ways to do many things in Scrivener. So I'll also be sort of referencing this upper menu, to show you other ways to do the thing that I'm explaining, whatever that is. All right, below that menu, you've got your shortcuts, right? This is really what things are open. So I don't ever use this first one. The second one obviously is a search function. The third one, this one is add something, and we'll go into this in detail in a few minutes. And then we've got the trash. We've got inserting images, see, this little paper clip corresponds to the insert menu at the top. We've got quick reference. We've got project keywords, which we're not going to get into in this video. These next two are pretty useful. There's project targets and statistics, and we'll get into both of those in a few minutes too. This is the compile button that we're going to ignore for now. This is a microphone. I think I added this one. I don't think this one comes standard. I mean, it's standard in the program, but I don't think it's standard on this menu. But it'll speak your text to you, which I find very useful when I'm getting ready to do revisions. It's really useful. So, yeah, this is just information on whatever you've got open, the name of it and how many words in the document you have open, and how many words you have in the whole thing, I think. I don't know. I don't pay attention to that. So these are 3 options. This is the writing option. These control what you see on this big part in the editor section, which this is technically the middle section, but you don't see the far right yet because I haven't opened it yet. So this is the editor section, and these 3 buttons give you 3 different views. This first one is the writing view, so it's like the text in your document. This one is the corkboard, which you can't really tell right now because we're not on a space that allows to see the cards on the corkboard. We'll go into that in a little bit too. And then this is the outliner, which again, you don't have anything here because we're not in a place that has enough sections for that. All right. Over here is bookmarks, and we are not going to go into that in this video. Composition mode is basically just a focus mode, distraction free. It just shows you your editor pane, so you can just do your writing. And then this is the inspector. It opens your 3rd column, and that's gonna be the last thing we go over because it's very detailed. So, all right, we're gonna switch back to here. Everybody with me so far? Holler out in the chat if you're with me. Holler out in the chat if you're confused and you don't know what's happening. Do that too. So this left-hand side is called the binder. Now it's set up the same way every Windows Explorer window you've ever seen. It is basically a nested tree. So the things you're going to see, now remember, if you I opened this Scrivener file as a novel template. Remember, if you open a blank template, you're not going to have, you may have a manuscript tab. I'm not sure exactly whether the blank has a manuscript tab or not, but you're not going to have all this stuff in this side. I specifically opened that because there are things I want to show you that you can use for template pages within your manuscript. All right. Yes, Rosie, the prior version, the look of it is very similar. There are not a whole bunch of huge changes. There are some smaller changes, particularly in the inspector, but they took away one of my favorite things that I used very often, and that's gone. But that's okay because I can work around it. All right, so this very first one, so in this listing, you basically have 2 types of text pieces. One is just a text document, which is what this is, and the other one is a folder, which is what manuscript, characters, places, front matter, notes, I think notes is also a folder, research, template sheets. These are all folders, and I know they're folders. They've got all these weird icons which were put in by whoever made this overall Scrivener template, because you can change the icons on anything by right-clicking and changing the icon, right? But the reason that I'm positive these are all folders is if you right-click, like I just did, and come down here, this allows you to convert between folders and files. So because it says convert to file, I know it's a folder. If I come up here to novel format and right click and look down here, convert to folder, so I know that's a file. It's not a big deal. Don't stress over any of that. So the important thing to know, so you start out with this manuscript folder. The important thing to know about the manuscript folder is that it is the thing that gets compiled. Anything that you want to be compiled into a final document, whether that's a Word document or a PDF or an ebook or whatever your final output is, it has to be in the manuscript folder. Like you can move stuff in and move stuff out depending on if there's like research stuff or whatever that you'd like to print out, or maybe you have a timeline in your research section that you want to print. You can move it in and out of Manuscript. And there are other ways to do it, but that's probably just the easiest way. So just remember that if it needs to be part of your output, it needs to be in the Manuscript folder. So we're just going to do high level right now. So it's a Manuscript folder. You've got a characters folder. Now you notice there's a little arrow on the left of the manuscript. You may not be able to see it, but it's right there on the far left. And that shows you that it's just like every other arrow in a nested tree. It shows you there's stuff inside this thing. So you open it up and there's, look, a chapter folder. And you open that up and there's a scene, and the scene is a file. It's a text file. You can see the little thing is blank. It means there's nothing written in there. If I write something in here, okay, now watch this little square right here. If I write something in there, you see it got lines. So I delete them and it's blank again. That's a quick visual cue, you know, a visual check you can do to see, oh, I didn't write anything in that scene. So we have the characters folder, the places folder, and you can see they don't have a little caret next to them. They don't have a little arrow, so there's nothing in those right now. Front matter, I'm not going to go into in depth because I don't need to. This is if you are indie publishing, they give you some pre-made pages that you can you know, use when you are creating the files you need to create in order to publish. So that's very handy to have. And one of the interesting things, like on the title page, you see how it says project title, author. It looks kind of like gobbledygook, but if you go into your file and options, I think it's there. Author information. Under general and author information, you put in your name and all that kind of stuff. That will be populated in the appropriate places. And the title is basically just the name of the project. So that's very handy to have. All right, but I'm gonna close that because we're not gonna get into that. Notes, this is where your bookmarks will go. We're not gonna go into that in depth. And then a little folder for your research. And one of the cool things they do in this template is they give you sample output, what a standard manuscript looks like, and then a paperback novel for like indie publishing. So like this is basic standard manuscript format, and that's just for your reference so you know what it should look like. So I thought that was actually pretty handy that they tossed that in there. All right, and now we've got these template sheets down here, and there's a character sketch, and you can see it's got this, and so when you have a character you can just fill all this stuff in, and the same with the settings sketch. But these are templates for within the project, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a few minutes after I get through just the basic creation of different files. But just remember that if you want to use something as a template, it has to be here in your template folder, your template sheets folder. All right, so I'm just going to walk through really quick how to create new files in order to write your book. Now, on the left-hand side in the binder under manuscript, you see that the folder is chapter, and then there's at least one scene in there. So you can set this up however you want. You can do it with your folders as chapters, and then all your scenes for each chapter in that folder. You can do it by act, like, you know, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and then have all your scenes in there. You don't have to use folders at all, and you can just have all of your scenes one after the other. If you change your mind on where you want a scene or whatever, these are movable. You click on it, you click and hold, and you just drag it, just like every other Windows program. You just drag it. If I wanted this, if I wanted this before the chapter, there it is, look. See, and now it's on the same level because it's not nested inside the folder anymore. Then you can put it back, and now it's back inside. That's all stuff you already know. Yes, the organization is one of the strongest points as far as Scrivener. It's like, it is its biggest selling point because you can keep everything for your entire project in one place, and you don't have to have 500 folders with 300 documents in each of them and have to figure out the name of every document and where's this piece of information, which document is it in. You can just search the whole freaking project and find what you're looking for. So, all right. So, let me show you how to make new folders and files. It's very easy. You can do it in multiple ways. One way is you can come up here to where this plus is. Remember, we looked at that before. If you use just the plus, it basically makes the same thing in whatever folder you are in. It makes the same type of thing that you last made. So if I make a file for scene 2, then if I hit the plus, it'll make another file for a scene. If I just made a character, if I just created a character from the character templates, it will put another character template in there. So the other option you can do is, you see this little down arrow, you can click on that, and then you can just pick one. That way you don't have to think about what you did last, because yeah, that doesn't always work for me. Anyway, so you can do a new text, or a new folder, or new from template, and this is how you use templates. But we're going to be simple. We're not going to do the existing files or the web page down here yet. I mean, we're not going to do that in this video at all. All right, so I think I want to make a couple more files for scenes. So I'm going to go new text, and look, made another one. It even puts you in there so that you can name it right away, scene 2. Now, you might want to think about naming conventions too. I initially started with naming them, if it's like chapter 1, it's scene 1.1, scene 1.2, scene 1.3, which is fine, except you don't know what's in any of the, when you've got like a 20 chapter book and each chapter has 3, 4, 5, 8 scenes in it, which chapter was it in? So I started actually naming, Jane goes to the grocery store or something like that, to give myself some sort of cue as to what's in the scene. So, the thing I'm looking for, if I'm looking for something specific, is easier to find. All right, so we went up here. So now if I hit this again, it'll make me another one. Scene 3. Another way you can do it is you can right click and do add. So you can do add, new text, new folder. We'll add a new folder. So we'll do chapter 2. Now you might notice, if you're paying close attention, you may have noticed that when I was on the scene and making new scenes, like when I wanted to make new scenes, I was actually on this level of the nest, right, of the nested tree. I was on this branch. And then I created another one. But when I wanted to make another folder that is on the same level as this first one, I had my cursor, I selected that. What happens is when you make a new whatever it is, it will be on the level where your cursor is, or where you've clicked. So if I click here on chapter and I make a new text file, it'll be on this chapter level. If I'm way up here on manuscript and I do a new folder, the folder is going to be up on this high level, right? It's not going to be in the manuscript folder. But if you mess it up and you do it somewhere in the wrong place, like if it's like way up here, oh man, I meant to put that in chapter 2. Darn. So I'll just drag it into chapter 2. No harm, no foul. Okay. Does that make sense? Does everybody get how to create a new file, a new folder? One other thing about the folders is, that's not the one I want to be on. The other thing about the folders is if you have multiple scenes, well, even if you don't have multiple scenes, but you can't see it if you don't have multiple scenes. If you've got multiple scenes and you just click on the folder, you will see all of that. If you're in the, remember over here on the kind of right, we've got these 3 buttons. If you're on the text part, you'll just see all of the text for all of the things in this folder. But the other cool thing about the folders is that, here, wait a minute. This is the first scene. This is the third scene, right? Okay, so now if we do this, you can see there's the first scene, there's the third scene, but you see there's this open space here. Now, you know, if you have like a manila folder and you have stuff in the manila folder. So our manila folder is chapter, and the stuff we have in the manila folder is scene and scene 3. But you can pick up your pen and you can write on that manila folder, right? You can write notes on the folder. And that's what this is. This is the folder. Now, remember before when we added text to the scene, to the files, and it made the little lines? If you notice up here now on the chapter, it's got like a little piece of paper that on top of it. That tells you that there's writing at the folder level. See, this one doesn't have it, this one does. So you can use that if you're writing maybe nonfiction and you want like a little introductory paragraph for every chapter, or, you know, if you're maybe doing a short story collection and you want to explain something about a story before people get into it, or something like that, or an anthology and you want to introduce the author, this is a handy way to do it. So, all right. Okay, doesn't look like there are any questions. Again, if I'm going too fast or if you have any questions, just toss it in the chat and I will come around and answer to the best of my ability. All right, let me check my little list. I got manuscript and creating. We're going to go on to templates. Templates are really handy. You could, okay, recognize that there's, when I say templates, there are 2 ways that you can use templates in Scrivener. One is a Scrivener template. And that's when you first create a project and you have to pick, you know, we picked a novel for this one. The other is template sheets, which are within a project. And the novel template comes with pre-made template sheets for character and for setting, right? All right, so the way you use them, you don't mess with this folder. Say we want to, I'm going to put my thing on the characters. Because there's nothing in it, when I create my new thing, it's automatically going to put something in it. Once things are, remember before I said you need to be highlighted the level you want to make it in. The one exception is when there's nothing in a folder. And when you create a new file or something, it puts it in the folder. So, but that, you'll work that out. You'll forget it, and then you'll remember it, and then you'll forget it again, and then you'll remember it again, and then you'll get confused about it, and then you'll figure it out, and you'll be fine. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to, I put my cursor, or, you know, I selected characters, and I generally prefer to right click when I'm doing this, but you can do it again, you can do it up here. I'm pretty sure you can do it under, yeah, you can also do it way up here under project. Remember I said I'd be showing you. So the 3 places you can make new folder, or new folders, new text, and new from template are under project on the main menu up here, under the plus sign on the little arrow next to the plus sign here, or you can right click and at the top of the context menu is add. Now we're on the characters folder, so we're going to add new from template character sketch. And since we've got Penny in the chat, we're going to make Penny Joe. Look, Penny, you're famous. All right, so then now it's here, and what it did is, if you look down here in the character sheets, okay, so we're gonna name it Penny. Whoop, oop, Penny, ha, Penny, Penny Joe. So, and I put that in there so that you can just see the difference. So here's the one that we just made, and here's the character sketch template that we pulled that from, right? So you can see, obviously, so then you fill in, and the thing is, if you're working with this, and you don't have to work with this, I use an entirely different character sheet than this. I actually have a 2-part character sheet, but, you know, if you find, oh, there's another thing, like maybe you do urban fantasy or even high fantasy or whatever, and you need maybe you need their like their race, if they're an elf or a dwarf or something like that, or maybe you need their magic, like what kind of magic they use. You can go into these template sheets and you can add things and you can take things out and you can, you can add whatever you need to the template so that when you create your character sheets, it will give you that as the template. So does that make sense? Everybody with me? Pretty easy, right? Once, it seems so daunting when there's like a bajillion things. But when you go through one at a time, it's actually all pretty simple. There's just a lot of it. So, so you do the exact same thing with places, which are the settings. So so I'll do it from up here this time. So I selected places because that's where I want to put it. And then I'll go up here to the little drop down, new from template, settings sketch. And we're going to put this as the space place in Alabama because that's where Jen works. And also Rosie would like it. So, okay. Yes, it is a great feature. It makes things super simple. And also, so like if you are maybe, if anybody reads Shauna McGuire at the beginning of her cryptid books, there's always a, time, and then it's some smart-ass thing like 10 minutes too late to save the world or something like that. And then there's a location way too far into a really dark cave, right? So if she were working in Scrivener, she could create a template sheet that already has location, with an, obviously empty because she'd have to add that for each, and time or whatever, that she can use so she doesn't have to retype that every single scene, every single chapter she has. So that would be like her first scene of a chapter would be that. So that's a whole, you can use the templates, whatever you find yourself having to make over and over again, you can create a template sheet for. So I know you'd like it, Rosie. Penny, you've been there in the one in Alabama. That's where Jen works. So, all right. I think that's everything. So, research is you can do with research. There's a lot of stuff you can do. If you right click, under add, you can add a web page here and it will literally put the web page into this editor part. And it's not a hot link, it's if somebody changes the web page, it's not going to change in your Scrivener. But it's good. Like I consistently grab like Wikipedia articles and stuff, and I'll put them in here if it has a lot of information that I want to see, and it also will have, the citation list at the bottom, which are links, and those work. So, so you can make your own notes. You can upload PDFs to your research area. Oh, I did want to also say about the characters and the places. If for those of you who write series or write multiple works in the same world, one of the really cool things, Scrivener hasn't yet worked out a really good way to do a series. Theoretically, you could have different manuscript folders for each book in a series and just use one project for the whole series, but like pretty much any project type software, the more you put into it, the slower it's going to get. So if you've got if you've got 15 book covers and all the research for all these things, it's going to end up bogging down that particular file. So I basically, where I store my Scrivener projects, which is on Dropbox, I have a folder for each series, and within each series folder, I have different projects for each book, right? So the cool thing is that, say this is the done book. It's clearly very sparse. But I go to make the new project for the new book. So then I just highlight all of my characters on all of my places, and I drag them over to my other Scrivener thing and drop it. And so then I've moved all my character information. You can do that with your research and your notes and all of it. Just drag it into the new project. And so you have all the stuff from the old project in the new project. So that's very handy. Is there a blog project available? Yes. I want to say that there's probably blog. I actually don't use a template, a project template for my blogs. I just have one Scrivener file, one Scrivener project that is just all my blogs. And each, under the manuscript, I have a folder. I have a folder that's, you know, this is my Patreon stuff. This is my website blog stuff. And then I just write the things in here. So you can do it that way. If you do a search on Google for Scrivener blog template, you will probably find stuff. Are there templates to help create a timeline? I don't know. I don't think so, but maybe. But if you haven't used Aeon Timeline yet, I would recommend it, and it works with Scrivener. They work hand in hand. So I put it in the chat. If you check out Aeon Timeline, and during Nano, I'm pretty sure you can get a discount on AO Timeline too. But it's very good. It will help you with timeline. It'll also, when you put your characters in, it figures up their age in the different parts of the timeline. So you know at any point how old your characters are and, you know, whatever. So, and you can do the timelines in our time. You can create your own time, you know, your own time system, I guess. So it's very flexible. Yeah, I recommend it. It's very flexible. So, all right, everybody clear on the binder on the left. Does Aeon Timeline work with Windows? Aeon Timeline is, yes, it's a Windows program. Yes, I use Windows. So if I'm using something, it is 100% a Windows program. So yes, they do both Windows and Mac, if I recall correctly. They might even do Linux. I'm not sure though. So does anybody have any questions about the binder? If you do, please put them in the chat now. This part, which is actually technically the middle part, but I don't have the right column open yet. This middle part is called the editor. Wow, that's surprising. Right? I mean, it's just shocking that it's called the editor. So right now I'm on first scene. So you can, like, these are my regular settings. I usually do book Antigua, regular 12 point font, although lately I've been going up to 14 because my eyes are not as good. And I single space it because I prefer to see it on the screen the way it would look in a book. If I were going to do, you know, I do a good portion of my revisions on paper. So when I compile it and export it to Word, it's double spaced or 1.5. It depends on which revision I'm on as to how it's spaced. But it's usually 12 point font. You know, I usually leave it book Antigua because nobody else is going to see it but me. All right. Penny says everything's been really clear. Awesome. And the good thing is this video, I'm going to upload it onto YouTube, and we will have it, so it'll be there like forever. All right. So really the editor is what you're used to in every word processing program. You've got your font, your, like, whether it's bold or not, you've got your points, you've got your, I really like that they have the spacing here. So I don't have to like go look for a funky thing. You've got your bold, italic, underline, which of course is the same thing as what's right here. You've got which side, where it's justified. You've got its color here. You have to right click. It's really weird. You have to right click on the colors. It's strange. So this is no color, and then this is all, and you know, this will give you a regular palette to choose from, which we're not going to go into. This, oh, hello. This is highlighting. So if you find, like, I'll often, if I either don't have a description for something or it was in another book and I don't remember it and I don't have it somewhere in my notes or whatever, which happens because I'm horrible at notes, then I'll just highlight it some weird color. I usually do yellow for just attention, and you know, I'll do blue for something specific or whatever. All right, and then of course here are your bullet points. So this is all basic. There's really nothing I have to tell you about that. You can add the rulers. Let me think. Is it under view? No. Documents? Actually, no, it's under options. Options. If you like, I like to have a ruler under appearance. So, composition, no, not main editor. So, wait, no, it isn't under main editor. I don't know where it is. Anyway, under here you can change pretty much how it looks, how Scrivener looks in all different ways. I'm trying to figure out where the heck where is it? I know I've seen it recently. Anyway, you can add a ruler to it if you can find it. Index card, inspector and notes, main editor, outliner, page view. Page view? No. Anyway, it's in there somewhere because I did it earlier. All right. So while we're on this section, we are going to, let me consult my notes. I did templates and we're on the editor. One last thing I'm going to show you on this part. Let me check the notes. Oh yeah, you can, oh yeah. There's also a zoom down here at the bottom. I should actually, there's a fourth place you can add things down here. You remember when I said you can add text in 3 places? I lied. I'm a liar. It's what I do. But down here on the left, you can add, see, I just added one, scene 4, and it's all out of order. And you can add a folder here. You got options, and then it gives you basically what your right click is. So down here, you've got your zoom. So you don't necessarily have to change your font. You can just change your zoom. And then this gives you a running count. See down here on the words, this is scene 4. So I've got 4 words. What is this? This is, I haven't talked about this yet, so we'll get back to that. And this is include and compile. We're not talking about that today. All right, so now I'm going to show you the corkboard. Now, the thing about the corkboard is that it doesn't work. Actually, no, I'm not going to show you this because I have to show you the inspector first. So forget I said anything. We'll come back. We'll come back because I actually have it on my list, but way down here. So really, honestly, at this point, you have everything you need to actually start writing in Scrivener. This is all you need. You know how to create your your manuscript here on the left. And the cool thing about this is this manuscript, you can put it all in there first and then write to it, or you can write and create the files you need as you go. So depending on, you know, how you work best. So you have everything you need. You could leave the video right now and go off and write. You're set. But I've got one more thing to show you, and this is the long one. This is where it gets kind of complex. So, oh, one more thing I want to show you about the editor though, real quick. I didn't have this on my list, but I definitely want to show you. So let's say you've got a scene and it references another scene. So it would be really handy to have both of them open, right? So here's what you do. You click on one of your scenes. We'll say we're working on scene 4 and we have to reference scene 2. So we're on scene 4. If you look way over here, you see you see this little guy? It lets you split the screen. You click it and it gives you 2. You click it back, it goes back. But I don't like them side by side. I prefer one on top and one on bottom. And in order to toggle that, I don't know why they set the default as a vertical split, but they did. But you hold down Alt and then click on it and it'll do it horizontally. So, but we're working on scene 4, but we wanted to be able to read scene 2. So if you notice, the the pane that has focus has this blue line on, right? The blue line is highlighted, or the header is highlighted in blue. If I were working down here, well, they're the same thing, but if I were working down here, this one is, right? But we want to be reading scene 2. And let's say we want to work on the top, in the top pane, and we're going to have scene 2 in the bottom pane. So we move our cursor into the bottom pane so that this header part is highlighted. And then we click on the text file that we want there, and we want scene 2. So here's scene 2. This is scene 2. So we can work up here and read what's down here. I do that a lot if I write beats. When I write beats, they're usually in a separate text file than the actual scene that I'm writing, and I'll have the beat open down here. And the beat is really just a multiple sentence synopsis of that scene with notes to myself on, you know, things I need to remember, things I need to keep in mind, that kind of stuff, you know, like the emotions I want the characters to be having. They're basically like notes for the author. So I'll keep that open down here usually, or sometimes I'll have a character sheet open down here. We can do that too. We can have Penny Joe's character sheet open, or we can have Jen's place of business open, so that we can reference those things. And you can like keep opening a whole, you know, you can open a, you know, just open whatever you need to open. So that, I use that with regularity. All right, so now you have everything that you could possibly need to just start writing. So now I'm going to show you the inspector. You see this little blue dot with the eye in it? That's the inspector. It opens up a little pane on the right. Yeah, Rosie, I use it all the time too. If I'm not using it, it's a rare day. All right. Getting a sip of tea. Okay, so the thing you'll want to just pay attention to is the way the inspector works is you've got a menu across the top, basically tabs, all right? The first one is notes. The second one is bookmarks. We're not going to go into that. The third one is custom metadata. I'm not planning on going into that, but that is very, very useful if there are things you need to track that are not as easily tracked with the built-in stuff. I can go over that another time, but it's super useful. I'll talk a little bit about it when we get to it, but I'm not going to go in depth with it. And then you've got snapshots, which are super useful when you're doing revisions. And then you've got your footnotes and comments. And if you're writing fiction, you're not using footnotes, but if you are doing some revisions and stuff and want to leave yourself notes, you might use the comments. So we'll talk for a minute about that too. But we're going to start here on the notes tab. And now you'll notice it's got two parts, synopsis up here, notes down here. So these close and open, close and open. All right. So a synopsis, you can use these in any way you want. You can use any part of Scrivener in any way you want. But the way I use this, and this is especially helpful if you are writing with an eye for traditional publishing and you need to write a synopsis. I mean, it's useful for indie publishing too, but a synopsis isn't really a need for indie publishing. It's definitely a need for traditional publishing. What I do with this is, and I usually do it after the scene is done, after I've finished writing the scene, not usually right after because I'm lazy. And so usually I take about an hour at some point and go through and write the synopsis card for every scene because I don't write them at the time. Anyway, and I usually write 1 to 2 sentence synopsis in synopsis style, which means present tense. And I'll write just the synopsis of the scene. It's different than the beats I mentioned earlier in that the beats are really for me. They're a guide for me, the author, to craft that scene. The synopsis is just, you know, if you're just telling somebody what happened in that scene. Because at the end, when you're done, if you're doing traditional publishing, you have to have a full synopsis of the full book. And so at the end, what you can do is you can take all of your synopsis cards and basically put them in a Word document. So you'll have most of your synopsis done. You just need to read through it for readability, maybe add some transition here and there, but it'll be done. It's super easy. And that's pretty much my whole synopsis class right there. All right, so you can do that. But here's another really cool thing. You see over here on the right that has a little picture icon? You click that, you can drop an image there. So if you've got a character, so I could take one of the lovely pictures I have of Penny Joe back in the day, and drop the image here. And so I would have a visual reference. And you can do that, you know, if I were hanging out with Jen and had a picture of her place of work. And yes, Rosie, that's where you put the drawings of the dinosaurs. Go right there. So, and anything, you know, you can do it if you have like, if you have a scene that has a particular vibe that you want, and there's something you've seen on the internet that kind of captures that feeling, put it in there. It'll give you inspiration. So you can use that. It's very handy. And you just toggle between the image and the synopsis. So let me go back up to the scene one. All right. And down here, notes. This little notepad stays with the file. So if you write something here in the notes for the scene 4 file, you're not going to be able to see them when you're in scene 1 or scene 3. So they used to have a thing where you could toggle between document notes and project notes, and that's the thing they took out that I used to use a lot. If I had a more general note about the book in general, or don't forget to add more of this throughout the book, I would put them in the project notes. And then things that went individually to a specific scene would be in the document notes. But they took that away, and I'm very sad. All right, so further down at the very bottom are 2 more things. And these are metadata. These are pre-made metadata. So, and this is at the bottom of all the inspector, every one of these tabs, this is at the bottom of all of them. This is just an easy way to get to it. So you can use these in a lot of different ways. You'll see there's labels and statuses. We're going to look at statuses first. So this status, there's no status, to do, in progress, first draft, revised draft, final draft, done. You don't have to use those. You can use this for anything you want. The only thing you have to keep in mind, so you can go to edit right here, and it'll open up, this is your project settings, which is under project up here. This is your project settings. You can change these. So you can double click on it. You can make it anything you want, right? You can add more down here with the plus. You can delete down here with the minus. The thing to remember about the status list is that you can only choose one, and it is not color-coded at all. Okay? Now, next to it, you've got label, and I'm just going to stay in the project settings because the label list is right here. Now, it currently has the name of the color and the color. That's not how you would use it. You might use it for point of view. So this one is going to be Jen's point of view, and then orange will be Rosie's point of view, and yellow will be Penny's point of view, and green will be my point of view, right? So I can keep track of, oh, maybe I've given Rosie too many point of view chapters and Penny doesn't have as many, or, you know, whatever it looks like. You can also you could use them for subplots. Maybe you have a romance subplot. Maybe you have, maybe the spaceship engine has been, what's the word? Sabotaged. And maybe that's a subplot. Engine sabotage. And, you know, whatever. You could make it, you can make it almost anything you want. Anything you want to track and you want to be able to see visually with a color, this is what you use. But remember, you can still only use one at a time. If you have something you need to track where it needs to have multiple, it could have potentially have multiple things, you have to use the custom metadata, which I'll just show you briefly when we're there. We're not going to get into it in depth. So these colors can show up. You have to do the setting, but they'll show up. They can show up as a little dot on the side here, but they also show up on the 3x5 cards, the synopsis cards of the corkboard, which I'll show you in a minute. So we're going to make scene 1 is a first draft, and we are going to make it orange. And then scene 2, we're going to make it in progress, and we're going to make it green, just so you can see them when we get there. All right, so that's the notes tab. If you have any questions, toss them in the chat. So this is the bookmarks. Like I said, we're not gonna get into this because I don't use them very often, so I would be talking out my butt. So this is the custom metadata section. You don't need to look at that. So basically the custom metadata, like I was just talking about, this is the project settings. Remember, here's the label list, status list, custom metadata. Basically, you make one, you name it. I want to track the romantic relationship. All right, and you can put that. And there's your text color. So there's that. I don't really use the metadata as much as I use I use both, actually. I usually, in my Soul Cavern series, I've used the custom metadata to actually track relationships, because I had several relationships, like the father-daughter relationship that I needed to track. I needed to know which scenes that was in, you know, and where it was, because I needed to make sure I had enough of it, and I needed to make sure there was a little romantic tension between two of the characters. I needed to see how often that happened. So that's often what I'd use that for. Keywords, I would use my characters. I would put all of my characters as keywords so that I could see who was in what. So basically you just add a keyword. This is Penny. And this is Jen. Right, so then when you are here at your scene, you show your project keywords. You can't see it, but it's on this thing. It's the last one. And then you add both of those. Oops. Right? So you drag them in there. Boop, boop. And then you've assigned these keywords to this scene. So that's just the quick. Like I said, I didn't want to get in depth in that. But that's how you use those. And you can do, and again, you can track anything. So if there's multiple things in scenes that you need to be able to track, you're going to want to use custom metadata and or keywords. If it's just thing that is you're only ever going to pick one out of a list, like point of view, for example, you're going to want to use either the labels or the status is, and how you use them is completely up to you. I know I went through that quick, but it was really just for an overview. So if you do have questions, you're welcome to put them in there, but I don't want to get super in depth on the metadata. Snapshots, super cool. All right, I've written my first draft, which clearly consists of 2 words. I want to take a snapshot. So you come over here, you hit add, you get a very satisfying camera sound. And then you can, I usually, when I'm doing it, it's usually the original. That's what I do for the first one. Because it really means it's like the raw stuff, right? And it gives you a timestamp. Now, so I'm going to go in, first scene text file is very dry reading. So I want to compare it. So there's my original. Now, if you notice, as soon as I clicked on it, it showed me the original down here. And it'll do that with the whole, like, you can have like a 3,000 word thing, and it'll all show in there. It won't have any of your formatting or anything, but that's unnecessary. You can do compare with the original, and it shows you what's changed. So cool, huh? I love snapshots. And also it keeps you from deleting stuff that you may end up needing later. So it's super cool. Okay, and the very last thing I'm going to show you on the inspector pane is comments and footnotes. I don't ever use footnotes. Can't tell you how to do that. Comments, I don't use them very often. Sometimes I do. You highlight the thing, right, and then right here it says add comment. You add comment right here. Hey, this is really dry reading. Right? So, that's it. But if you notice, as I added things, little dot showed up on the top right where I added things. So like when we added this snapshot, if we delete this, chink, yes, we really want to delete it. That little dot went away. So this shows you when there's something here. So if you have, like, if there have been comments, like you can send Scrivener files to a critique partner or something, and they can do all their comments in here and then just send you the file back, and you can go through. So this little dot will let you know there's something there. So all right, so that is the inspector. Are there any questions on the inspector? We're almost done. We're going to hit corkboard in the outliner next, and then we'll be done. Anybody? Questions, comments, thoughts? Nope. Well, good. You're a Scrivener virgin, and I clearly done my job if you don't have questions. Either that or you just haven't thought of any yet. And that's fine too. Okay, so I am going to, remember we're going to go back to these three. Now we're going to go back to the corkboard. All right, so we've currently got scene 1 selected. Oh, wait, hang on. Do you have to be careful to remove comments before compiling? I believe there's an option in compile whether to include comments or not. And I want to say it's defaulted to not. But I am not familiar enough with the compile feature of Scrivener 3 yet to be able to speak with any kind of authority about that. Yes, Penny, you will think of them when you're done, but that's okay because you've got a whole Facebook group to go ask questions in. Okay, so notice that we are currently in scene 1's text file. And honestly, if you have questions about the inspector, toss them in. I'll come back to them. So we're currently on scene 1, right? So if we open the corkboard, remember the second one is the corkboard. View the documents, sub-documents on the corkboard, right? You do that, you don't see anything because scene 1 doesn't have any sub-documents. In order to see the corkboard, the 3x5 cards, the synopsis cards, you have to be on one of the upper levels. So right here, we're now here, and it switched us back to the text part. So remember this, we saw all this. And you can actually see how, remember I made this font 14, these are all still 12. So you can actually see that difference in there. But we're going to go back to the corkboard, and now you can see the corkboard. Now, you might notice that what's written on here is actually what's in, you might remember this is what I wrote in the actual text file. The reason it's showing that is because if I go back to here and I look back here, I didn't write anything in the synopsis card. So we'll write something, scene 1's synopsis card. Now we'll go back up to the top level. See, it took out the text that was just in the editor part, the middle part, and now that it has something in the synopsis, it's there, right? And it's the same here. So we'll go Scene 4's synopsis card. And we'll go back up here, and there it is. All right? All right. So you might notice these are kind of out of order. So let's maybe put Scene 3 before Scene 4, and this is what is powerful about the corkboard. I tend to write in a very linear fashion, so I don't use the corkboard very often because I don't, you know, I don't tend to, I'll look at it for reference, but I don't do a lot of rearranging in the corkboard. Because you can also rearrange here in the binder, right? So another thing I want to show you is, you notice we have a folder with scenes under it and a folder with a scene in it. And then we've got the big folder up here, the manuscript folder. When we click on the manuscript folder, you don't get individual cards anymore. And this is one of the things I find frustrating. You see, if you look at the bottom of these, you can see that there's a stack of cards, right? You can see that there's a stack of cards. So you know that there are subfolders, but you have to actually go to them in order to see them. You understand what I'm saying? I hope that came through clearly. So we're going to go back over here to the scene on the, oops, I'm sorry. Go back over to here. Now, remember how we made Scene 1 orange? There's our orange thumbtack. We didn't make a color for Scene 3. See, if you look down here on the right, you remember I said on the inspector, this stays down here. So as long as I've got the inspector open, I can see what my labels and status are. I have no label. I have no status. So we're going to label it, and we'll make this one blue. And we'll give this one a status of revised draft, which you can't see on there. They used to put, it used to like have a thing across. I'm not really sure where it is now. It used to just have like this banner across it. So this one still has a gray peg. So we'll make this one purple. So there. So now, you know, if this one were in Jen's point of view, if that's what these were for point of view, this one's in Jen's, this one's in Rosie's, this one's in Penny's. And then I'll know, and as I see more, you know, as I write more, I'll see what the balance of the different point of view scenes are. So that is where that shows up. I think that's everything for the corkboard pretty much. So we will go to the outliner now. The outliner is super cool. I like it a lot. So you'll notice the default is title and synopsis is here, and it tells you the title of the file and whatever's on the synopsis card. If there's nothing on the synopsis card, because Scene 3 doesn't have anything. I don't think Scene 3 has anything. No, it doesn't. Scene 3 doesn't have anything in the synopsis card, so it shows nothing. And this shows Scene 4. Now it shows the labels and the status and the section type. And the section type I'm not getting into because that has to do with compiling. And so again, I don't have the frame of reference for that yet. But maybe you want to know your word count. Maybe you want to know the progress you've made, which we haven't talked about. I do have one more thing to talk about after this, and that's going to be the project settings and stuff like that. Not project settings, the project targets and the statistics. We'll talk about those in just a minute. So let's say you want to know, well, I kind of want to know. So you come over here to this little arrow that's to the right of the columns. And you can choose, and like, oh, I don't really want to see section types, so let's take that out. I do want to see keywords. Oh, as color chips. Oh, that's kind of cool. You could do it with the words or with the color chips. I didn't know you could do that. But we're going to leave it at the keywords, because if I have to memorize what color everything is, it kind of defeats the purpose. I don't care about the dates. I do want to know the word count. And maybe I want to know my progress, which we're not going to see because we don't have any of that. And look, there's our metadata. So if I want to see what romantic relationships I have, we didn't finish filling that out. But if I did, I could then list it here, right? So you can have all kinds of stuff. So this can be very, very useful. You've got to play with it and figure out how it works best for you, but it can be very, very useful. All right, so that's the outliner. We're pretty much done with all that. I just want to show one last thing, well, two last things, but they're both small. So remember up here, we were talking about project targets and statistics. Project targets, you open that up. All right, so I have, this is for the whole manuscript. I want to write an 80,000 word book. And you can do session target one of two ways. I'll show you the second way in a minute. I want to do 1,500 words today. And there's an options thing down here, and it gives you different things like only count documents set to be included in compile. So if you only want to count the actual manuscript words, use that. I keep count of all of my words in a spreadsheet, and I try to count all of my, like if I'm writing beats and stuff like that. I keep them in a separate area on the spreadsheet. I don't count it towards the manuscript words, but I like to keep track of it because I like to see how much work I put into. So if I'm doing that, I'll uncheck this box so that it'll also count those. And let's say I have a deadline. Let's say my deadline is November. Hello. You're gonna make me go? Okay, so well, first we definitely want to change it to 2021. And then maybe we want to go, say, November 12th. That's when I want my deadline. I want to be done with this book. Okay. And then session targets. So when you choose a deadline, you go to session targets. First, reset your session count. I usually do that at like something like stupid like 4 in the morning because there's a greater than 0 possibility I may be writing at midnight or 1 o'clock. And I want that to count for the day I'm still awake from. You can count text written anywhere in this project for session. So again, like we were talking about, allow negatives. That means that if I wrote 100 words and then deleted 30 of them, I still want to count the 30 of them because I wrote them, even if they didn't end up in the manuscript. Automatically calculate from draft deadline. If you've created your deadline here, I love this part. You check that, and then it asks you what days you write. So maybe you have, things that you do on Saturday, and maybe you have, whatever, something you do on Wednesday. So I write Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. And I absolutely want to allow writing on the day of the deadline, because who doesn't write on the day of a deadline? And then you hit OK. Now look what it did down here at the session target. Remember I had put 1,500? Now it's calculating based on my deadline how many days I'm actually planning to write and dividing it out. So out of the 83 days that I've said I'm going to write, I have to write 964 words per day in order to meet my deadline. Super handy, right? Really cool. Can you still add more categories to the outliner like date? Like date, if you mean the date you made it, yes, that's already there. It's created date and modified date. If you mean like the date on a timeline, like the date within the manuscript, you have to do that. You can do that, but you have to do it with the custom metadata. I do that too because I have a horrible time keeping track of like how many days has gone by in my manuscript. So I actually am like Monday the 1st, Tuesday the 2nd, Wednesday the 3rd, and I make them, you see where it says romantic relationship up here? That would be like your metadata. This would then say, timeline or something like that, and then under here, you would have chosen in your scene, you would have chosen what day it is or year, whatever you're trying to track. So, oh, you meant date modified. Well, there it is. Yes, you can absolutely do date modified. So, yeah, so they've got all these pre-made ones, but, and I'll leave it up for a second so that you can actually see it. There's created date, modified date, character count, total word count, and that means your total word count for the whole manuscript. I don't feel like that's something I really need to see on every single, on every single one of these. So I never use that. Include and compile. This is actually really handy if you're not sure which ones you've marked to include in the compile. Obviously, we're not going into that, but it's handy. Your target, that has to do with what we just set, and your progress and your total target and total progress, right? So those are the pre-made ones. And then after that, you'll see all your custom metadata, and you can add that also. The other thing I want to show you real quick is statistics, which is super cool. So this is, the tabs show you what you're talking about. So this says all the compiled documents. So all these documents in your manuscript that you've marked for compile. This is the total word count, total character count, paragraphs, sentences, page length, all the things, right? And there's a place in the settings where you can tell Scrivener how many pages, you can tell Scrivener how many words are on a paperback page for you, because it also depends, that always depends on the font and the, the typeface and all that kind of stuff. So if you've got 350 words on a paperback page, you put that in the settings, and then it will calculate how many pages based on that and the reading time, right? Also down here, it's very handy. There's word frequencies, so you can see what your crutch words are, how often you use words. There's different estimates, accurate and fast. That's new. So I guess estimate is just based on a percentage of what you've written, and accurate is probably it actually counts everything up. All right, so that's for your compiled. Over here, selected. So I could have selected scene 1, scene 3, and scene 4, or any combination of whatever, and it would give me the totals for that, and the same with the word frequencies, right? Options, you can just go through these and add these. The other cool thing, set list of words to ignore. You can see we've already got, I've already added a whole bunch. I don't want to see these because these are super common. You may also want to put your character's name in there, maybe you don't want it to count that. Maybe you do. Maybe it's a short story that you're working on and you only have, 5,000 words, and, if you use your character's name 120 times, that might be a lot. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. Who knows? So you can, you can put your character's names in the list of words to ignore or not. So, and this is where the setting is where you can say how many paperback pages they are. All right. So, and that's it. So you can just select what you need and you're all set. That's it. That's all there is. Super easy, right? It's way easier than it maybe looked the first time. So what do you think? Do you have any questions? Is there anything that was unclear? Penny says, it's funny because I can't see anything on these drop-down menus, but I feel like I'll be able to figure it out. Could you not see that? Wait a minute, hang on. Let me pull that back up. So what could you not see? Oh, it didn't show it. Dang. Okay, hang on. I can fix that. I can show it to you. Hold on. I wish I'd have known that. I wish y'all would have said something. Hang on. Give me one sec. I just have to do, this is just a little slower. We want a new source. Browser 2. I wish I'd have known that, y'all. All right. Hang on. Give me one sec. Let me find it. Statistics. Here we go. There it is. All right. Let me go through this again. So here's, like I said, these are the tabs at the top. Compiled. Words. Here's your word frequency down here. You open it up, it shows you. And then over here, selected documents, same thing, except like I was saying, these are if you select something over here, You select 2 or 3 different things, or however many you need. Maybe you want to know all the stats for chapter 3. Maybe you want to see all the stats for all the scenes in just chapter 3. So you would do chapter 3, you would hit the statistics button up here, and then look under selected documents, and it'll show you. And again, it has the word frequency down here, right? And this is the option tab I was just telling you about. Did you guys not see me setting the targets or anything? Tell me if you saw me setting the targets. If you didn't, I want to go through that again. I totally thought it would show you all of those things. Dang it. So here are the options again, and you can go through these, and this is what I was telling you about the paperback words. And this is the list of words to ignore. Now, I'm guessing it didn't show that. No, it's not showing it. I have the, a, an, and, to, she, her, you, he, him, his, of, and it. Those are things I have in my ignore list at this time. So yeah. So you guys didn't see the, all right, let me go back and show you this. Let me see. Okay, now I have to, wait, hang on. Before I do that, I want to reset everything. Doot, doot. All right, deadline. Okay, so let me do this again. Oops, I dropped it again. All right, do you guys see? No, you guys don't see anything. Okay, hang on one second. Let me fix this again. Oops. Hang on. It's grabbing the wrong thing. No, not that. Not that. Yeah, that. Okay. Let me find this one. Let me make it grab the right thing. Scrivener. Nope, that's not right. Scrivener. Oh, it's not going to show it. One second. I'm still fixing it. I have to add a new one. I have to do it again. Okay, window capture. New source. Browser 2. Add source. Now, where are you? Scrivener. Uh-oh. Hang on. That? Nope. Why doesn't it let me show you? Dang it. Okay. It's not going to let me show you this one. I don't know why. Let me try again. Try one more time. Nope. What is it called? Project. Oops. Messed that up. Project. No, it's not going to let me show it to you. I'm sorry. That's annoying. I wonder if there's another way to do it. Image slideshow, display capture. Oh, you know, I should have just done that. Oh well. You'll find it. It's easy. You'll find it. It's this little bullseye up here. This little bullseye up here. And if you look down here, remember I skipped this thing. This is a document target on the bottom right of the editor. If you open that, it will create, let me see if I can grab that one. Let me see if I can grab that one. Yes, I can grab that one. Okay. So, boop. There we go. So if you hit that little bullseye in the bottom right, it will let you set a document target for this specific document. Number of words, and then you don't really have to worry about, but show allowance, no. You don't really have to worry about the allowance or the minimum target. I wouldn't worry about that. I would just set that. I'm going to try that other one more time, though. Let me see if I can do that one more. See, I think the problem is they look different. So let me delete that. And we will try this one again. Window capture, add source, new window, add source. Yeah, I don't think it's going to let me grab it. It is not going to let me grab it. All right. Hang on. I can do a display capture. No, that's not going to work. Yeah, I'm not going to, it's really not going to let me show you the project targets, but you can figure that out. So, all right. Your old version of Scrivener does have statistics, but it's not as good as this. It's not as in depth. You're so loud, Penny Joe. All right, are there any other questions? Because we've been here for like an hour and a half, so I feel like it's probably good to start wrapping it up. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Do you feel a little more comfortable jumping into Scrivener if it was, you know, a little problematic for you before? Oh, good. So don't forget to hit follow if you haven't. I know most of you have. I don't know if I actually, maybe, I think all of you have. I think all three of you have. So, awesome. So if you have any thoughts on something else you'd like me to do something like this on, I actually have an idea. I want to do one on One Stop for Writers, which is really cool. So I'll probably do that in a couple weeks. So holler at me if you have any questions. You know, you can put them in, you know, you can make a thread on the group or whatever. So thank you so much for joining me here on Twitch. And I'm going to be uploading this video to YouTube, hopefully in the next day or two, so that we'll make it more available to other people. All right, so I'm going to put up my stream ending thing, and thanks everybody for joining me. We'll see you later.